Hi, I'm Eshkalar, the world's greatest Canadian wizard, and since the beginning of the rise of magic all across the world again, I am at this point the greatest wizard ever. Yeah? Let's see you cast a meteor swarm. I didn't think so. So, I want to talk about living in a fantasy universe, because if anybody's an expert, it's me. Since I was a child, people says he lives in his own fantasy world. So I really have corroboration independently from many people, including psychiatrists and other medical professionals. So I am the reigning expert on living in a fantasy world. So let me talk to you about fantasy worlds right now and how game designers have got it wrong, and even the experts have missed the whole point. Ready? All right. This is beginning my comment. Consequences have been ignored in gaming. 1. Starting areas are places where great lords have settled down, clearing the area of powerful monsters. That lets noobs begin in relatively safe zones. As they level, they gain confidence and can spread out past those cleared zones. Number 2, the world is largely uncivilized, leaving room for your toons to settle down when they get to high level, and yada yada as in number 1. Number 3, all areas should be accessible, but if you go somewhere that hasn't been cleared out, you're likely to die. Consequences. 4, even great lords are afraid to go some places alone. Consequences. That makes them willingly band together on occasion to clear out a new zone, just enough to please themselves. There will still be lower level threats that avoided or were ignored by those great lords on the mission. 5, nothing is in a vacuum or standing still. Monsters in remote areas are also leveling up and deciding whether they want to attempt assaults on previously cleared zones. Your lord might be out on an adventure when the great dragon Arcanax arrives to destroy your entire life's work. So, the higher level you get, and concurrently, the more civilized your cleared zone or area gets, the more time you'll have to spend in it, scouting, observing, and preparing locally for the next onslaught of foreigners or threats from within. Once again, consequences. 5A. Civilization is not permanent or invulnerable to harm. Dissident groups, new monster incursions, plagues, and all sorts of new threats arise. If you ignore these real and present dangers, consequences. 6, world bosses don't just sit there twiddling their non-opposable thumbs. They have interests and actions that work toward those interests. A monster might not be in his or her lair when your hero arrives. Sometimes you luck out. But some bosses leave lieutenants behind when they have to go elsewhere. Number 7, no world exists in a vacuum or in stasis. The world has events that your character might or might not be aware of. 8, don't penalize good players by making anything more challenging simply to scale opposition. You make a mockery of hard work and dedication that way. Seriously, the more experience you gain in the real world or fantasy world, the better you become compared to your surroundings. That is the basis of expertise. Games ignore that simple truth. Number 9, low-level animals live in high-level zones too. What the heck do you think that monsters eat otherwise? 10, geopolitics abhors a vacuum. If you clear an area and don't remain in it to ensure safety, then outside forces will move in to claim it. That's happening in Syria today. Don't tell me it's not the truth. 11, each profession is different. Some areas should not be accessible to simple grinds. Maybe lava pits require an agile, leaping acrobat, not a Maximilian plate-armored 7-footer. And some locks or puzzles will require finesse rather than application of brute force. You might have to start a rogue, for instance, to explore certain content your fighter can't reach or access, or master. Professions should not be generic, just like they aren't in the real world. A solo player needs limits, but a great solo player should have elbow room to exceed those limits. That's how it is. 12. To be determined. Honestly, I'm writing this off the top of my head, so I feel I've forgotten something important. I'll return to this spew when I remember it. And I'd like to conclude with a comment. My greatest peeves against MMORPGs are three. A. Dead man switch dungeons where you can't do something until you've killed everybody in the room. That's just frickin' stupid. B. Forced grinds. A little bit like A. Both of which, A and B, eliminate player creativity and problem solving. The antithesis of play. And C. The closing off of zones to sneaky or problem-solving players because they're not high enough level yet. Making every game fresh for every player is, in a single word, stupid with two O's. Old players, masterful players, need that feeling of antiquity or superiority compared to noobs. Once again, consequences. You designers have ignored consequences at your peril, and that's why you have lower sales. That's why you can't make money. Now, it might be good for me to state my qualifications here, so you don't think I'm just talking rather than have expertise to apply to this topic. Ready? My credits? I played WoW from the vanilla, spent 10 years in-game playing it every day, so I know something about World of Warcraft. I've been in Dungeons & Dragons Online for 10 years, the last 5 years or so pretty steadily. So I know something about Dungeons & Dragons Online. I was a beta tester for Star Wars The Old Republic, and I played 5 years every day until they screwed up the free-to-play paradigm. Now, I was in Dungeons & Dragons since just about the time Gary Gygax switched from the 3 chainmail booklets to the original box set. And then I bought, that same year, 1979, the first advanced D&D player handbook and Dungeon Master Guide. So I was in Dungeons & Dragons almost from the vanilla too. So I know something about pen and paper, tabletop gaming, and design. Also, today and for the last 20 years, I've written fantasy novels. It's what I do for fun. So I know a little bit about this topic. Now, I realize that not all of you could agree with me, and not all of you are the world's greatest wizard, so you may not have as much reason as I have for the comment. However, I'm willing to hear your responses and your rebuttals simply because I'm bored. Great monsters get bored just sitting there twiddling their non-opposable thumbs. Ha ha! See.